What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM, episode 330 here today for March 25th, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. For last week's episode, just for clarification, I did record that 2 weeks ago under the assumption that I would be away last Wednesday, which is why it sounds so outdated in retrospect, so I apologize for that. I had recorded it as if I was away and that everything would be running as normal. That was before the whole world went to shit, and we found out WrestleMania would be taped, a 2-day event, that it was happening at the Performance Center, so I apologize for that. But today we're back on track with episode 30. Thank you as always for sending in your awesome questions. If you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So let's get started here first with Emmanuel A. from YouTube. What's an incident that didn't fully register to you at the moment? I remember growing up, I liked Chris Benoit because I thought the crossface was the coolest submission ever. I wasn't used to thinking as critically as I do now, so the consequences of the 2007 incident didn't truly register to me beyond not being able to see the crossface the same way again, or Vince McMahon having to admit his character, quote-unquote, dying in a limo explosion was just a storyline. I never really had anything quite like that just because I started watching when I was 14. So, I mean, most of what I saw, I kind of figured was, obviously fake or scripted, whatever. Not that you thought it was a work or whatever. Benoit's death was a work. The only thing I can really relate to that, with are two things. One, this is going to sound dumb, but this happened when I first started watching, and I was still relatively young. And in terms of wrestling fandom, I'd only been watching for a few months. The McMahon $1 Million Mania incident. I remember watching it. It was my last day of school, June 23rd, 2008, when it was the night of the WWE draft, too, which was a great show, in my opinion back then. I don't know if it still stands today. But at the end of the show, that was when McMahon was doing the dumb McMahon $1 Million Mania bullshit. I remember I had to go to bed at like 9 o'clock. So I couldn't stay up to watch the show and see if I got called about $1 million. Like I wrote down, I don't even think I had a cell phone at that point. So I wrote down my parents' cell phone number, and then their phone rang, and I freaked out thinking, oh my God, it's Mr. McMahon. And obviously it wasn't. But anyway, so at the end of the episode, that was when the set exploded and fell all over him and whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And I thought it was real in the immediate aftermath of the event. And then obviously I quickly realized it was part of the storyline, maybe a couple days later. That was the only thing I think I really thought that was real, that was actually fake. In a different way, something that didn't really register with me in the moment. You said, a little while after the fact, and probably later on that night, it kind of started to sink in when you said that you saw McMahon come out and said that it was only a character, blah, blah, blah. The only other thing I can really relate to that with is the death of the Ultimate Warrior back in April of 2014. I remember I came back from recording a show with RJ. I think it was a WrestleMania recap show, the Tuesday right after WrestleMania 36 years ago. And I got back to my dorm, and I remember seeing someone tweeted me actually saying Warrior died, or Warrior's dead, or whatever. I'm like, this can't be true. This has got to be a hoax. This has got to be one of those Wikipedia said that this celebrity died today. And then I quickly looked through it, and I saw Triple H tweet about it moments later, and I'm like, his account's got to be hacked. This has got to be fake. And then it really slowly but quickly, kind of at the same time, started to sink in that the guy had been dead. And that to me really kind of threw me for a loop specifically. I mean, it threw anyone for a loop. We had just seen him on Raw literally the night before. But for me specifically, I always idolized the guy, not for I know there was a lot of issues with Warrior and how he said things and viewed things. He had a lot of questionable views, but I wasn't really aware of that at the time that it was, I'm not really talking about his in-ring persona because I wasn't around back then. I'm talking more about 2011, 2012, and I've said this before many, many times, that Warrior was one of my biggest inspirations because of the videos he was putting out around that time. Really helped me through a lot, helped me kind of look at the world in a more positive outlook and stuff like that, kind of helped me adopt a more positive outlook on life in 2011, 2012. So anyway, with Warrior and the fact that he had died, it really, I'm like, holy shit, the guy just passed away. Not only that we had just seen him the day before, but I really, really idolized the guy. He's always been one of my biggest inspirations. So when it was announced that he had actually died, like in the moment, it didn't really sink in until probably later on that night or the next day. I was really upset for a long time, and I can safely say, I know this is like a popular question, like what wrestling death hit you the hardest? A lot of people would say Benoit or probably Eddie. I wasn't watching at either of those periods, so I can't really say them, but definitely Warrior for me, just because of my personal, not that I knew the guy, but my personal association or connection, I guess would be the right word, with the Warrior at that point in the years preceding that. I was really upset for probably that entire month, but definitely that first, 3 or 4 days. It was hard to believe that the guy had died. So that's probably what I would say. But from a storyline standpoint, the only thing I can really bring up is the McMahon $1 Million Mania thing, because everything else after that I kind of figured was like a work or whatever, like when, I don't know, I'm trying to think in 08, 09 what really happened at that point, like when Trump showed up, or I don't know, none of that stuff was really an incident. I mean, that's a real thing you're talking about, the Benoit thing. I would say either the Warrior thing more prominently, or the McMahon $1 Million Mania incident from June of 2008, as I hate to admit. At the Wrestle Guy Sal from Twitter, his first question was, do you think WrestleMania being in front of no audience will have an effect on the outcomes of matches, and will WWE continue the storylines into SummerSlam with the crowd? Example, McIntyre versus Lesnar, Orton versus Edge, etc. Absolutely the no crowd will play a factor, maybe not the outcome of every match, but definitely the main ones. I can guarantee you of that. I'm not saying every match will be like the opposite of what you expected or what should have happened or what should happen, but like with Brock and McIntyre, not that, I'm going to say this, and I said this about a month or two ago, not that McIntyre winning was set in stone anyway, because there was always a good chance Brock would retain. We knew, we felt like we knew anyway, that Roman would win at WrestleMania 34, and he didn't. He got beat clean by Brock Lesnar. So if that could happen, there is nothing saying that Brock is going to lose this year to Drew. And they could still have Drew win, but I also think there's a good chance they have Brock win, and they build to a rematch. It may not even be at SummerSlam. I really hope this shit is over with in the next couple months, and we have SummerSlam. It's here in Boston, and we can all celebrate whatever. But that's not confirmed. I mean, there's some people saying this might happen, this lockdown, and not just here in the Northeast, but just in general here in the country and in the world. This pandemic may last up to 6 to 9 months, and I really hope that's not the case. But it very well could be, because we're still in a state of uncertainty right now where we don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, I don't even know if we're going to have SummerSlam. I think if I'm not a betting man, but if I had to take a bet, I would say we will. Mania is being taped today and tomorrow, I think. And I think there's a mandate from Orange County, Florida, saying that they have they've instituted a stay-at-home policy, kind of like a lockdown, pretty much. It's pretty much a lockdown, let's face it. And that's going into effect, apparently, on Thursday night. So after Thursday night, they can't tape anything. So they're lucky they already planned on taping Mania, because if they didn't plan on that, they wouldn't be able to tape Mania, because you can't just throw together the show at the last second on a Wednesday or a Thursday when the mandate goes into effect in less than 48 hours. But I absolutely think that the no audience thing will absolutely play a factor in some of the outcomes in the matches. They could have Goldberg win. I'm not saying that he should. He absolutely shouldn't. I think it's more set in stone that Roman wins than Drew, and that was always the case anyway. But like Edge and Orton, I saw someone say that they think that Orton might win to kind of prolong the feud, which is absolutely possible. I mean, Edge doesn't have to get pinned here, because it's a last man standing match. So they could have someone interfere. They can have Orton, resort to underhanded tactics to beat Edge. It's really up in the air. He doesn't necessarily have to lose, Orton, that is. And the guy's been doing the best work of his entire career. So quite honestly, I wouldn't even hate the idea of Edge losing his first match back, because he wouldn't be getting pinned or submitted anyway. So it's really not that big of a deal, depending on how they do it. So yes, I think a lot of these feuds will be prolonged into SummerSlam, assuming that could be our first show back. Like, we have no idea what's going on right now. I would say things are back to normal by, I would say definitely June. May, maybe not. Like, Ring of Honor already canceled all of their shows through the end of May, and it's only late March as we speak right now. So there's a very good chance we may not even have another WWE show until June, or late May or whatever. They obviously want to get back on the road a lot quicker than Ring of Honor. Like, they have a lot more at stake than they do. So I think it's very likely we will see a lot of these feuds carry over on a SummerSlam, and I wouldn't hate that either, because a lot of these feuds are just getting started. Edge and Orton's been kind of going on for a while, but Edge just came back, so I wouldn't hate to see more out of them. McIntyre and Lesnar, definitely. Roman and Goldberg, I really don't care to see continue, but I guess we could see that continue. Time will tell, but definitely, the outcomes will be different than what you expect. I don't think it's going to be as predictable as we thought it would be. Let's put it that way. And I could see a lot of rematches happening at SummerSlam. Sal's second question, how do you feel about WrestleMania being pre-recorded? Do you think this could have any benefits to the show, or do you think it's an overall negative because a-holes on the internet will spoil it for everyone? Well, a few things on this. Yes, I think it's a negative. I've already explained why in my show, and I'll say it again here. I just don't like that idea at all. I didn't get to talk about it. I haven't recorded a new episode of this show in 2 weeks, although an episode went up last week that was pre-recorded 2 weeks ago. But real quickly, if you didn't get I think I talked about this on WrestleRain. Actually, I don't think I did. I don't think it came out at that point that Mania was going to be pre-taped. I think that news came out on like Friday or Saturday, I think. So I don't even think I had a chance to talk about it at the time. I think it's a dumb idea. But at the same time, though, so my mindset at that point, when they first announced they would be pre-taping it, is this. You do one of two things. One, you either wait until that Sunday of April, whatever, the 4th, 5th, whatever, and then you do the show as planned, assuming there's nothing happens between now and then. No one gets the coronavirus and they could still tape and whatever. And if not, then just have that be your first show back. But, obviously, as we found out today or yesterday, that the mandate from Orange County, Florida is going into effect tomorrow, reportedly, which will, I assume, affect WWE, and they can no longer tape shows at the PC. So with that being said, it seems like in their mind they made the right call because, hey, we can get WrestleMania out of the way, as well as like the next night's Raw. They've already taped a lot of TV through the next 2 weeks. I don't like that idea, but in their mind, if they want to, if they want to pre-tape everything and whatever, I get it. I understand. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it at all. But fuck it, it's a 2-day show. Gronk is host. I like the 2-day show thing, but it's already going to have no fans. Why the hell not just pre-recorded at this point? You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not a fan of it, but I get where they're coming from. It was probably the smartest decision in their mind because they've already found out they can't tape past Thursday. And look at that, they're recording on today and tomorrow anyway, so it works out perfectly. And maybe they can just pick up where they left off when they can start taping TV again. But as far as the spoilers are concerned, I do think spoilers will get out. I don't go out of my way to read spoilers, but there's no way I can avoid social media. A day or two is one thing. A week and a half is ridiculous. It's like one of those things like, if you don't want to be spoiled, stay off of Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can't do that for a week and a half. That's just ridiculous. If it's a day and you haven't seen it yet and it's already aired, that's one thing. In this case, people who spoil it are just fucking assholes, like you said. At the same time, though, I will say this. They've already taped a lot of TV through the next couple of weeks. NXT, I don't know what they taped. I don't know if they taped just this week and next week, the next 3 weeks. I have no idea. But they did reportedly tape NXT TV on, I want to say Sunday. I've heard no spoilers from that whatsoever. They reportedly taped Raw and SmackDown already through the next couple. They pretty much taped everything but WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure they already taped the night after WrestleMania, I guess, yesterday. And I have heard no spoilers from that. So hopefully that means we won't get any spoilers for Mania either, but that's not confirmed. I'm just saying, I'm just kind of going off of what I've seen and heard. I'm not going out of my way to be spoiled, but from what I've seen, I feel like if there were going to be spoilers from those shows, not that they're all that significant anyway, we would have found out by now, and we haven't. So hopefully that's the same case for Mania, but again, nothing is set in stone. I would just be cautious. I wouldn't go out of your way to be spoiled if you don't want to be spoiled, but if you're on the internet and you see something, there's really not much you can do. You can't avoid this type of stuff for a week and a half. I'm not going to not go on Twitter because all this news is breaking on Twitter and all this other stuff. That's where I get most of my news from WWE and wrestling on the whole and whatever. So anyway, his third question, not a question, but more of a discussion. I believe once this COVID-19 pandemic is over, the wrestling world as a whole, WWE, AEW, etc., will be on fire once we get the audience back. I think there will be a lot more motivation to deliver red-hot shows for a long time. That's a great way of looking at it. I love that outlook. I love that view on things. I don't know if that's going to be accurate. When they come back, I saw someone tweet this. I got to give credit to at Jamie Lee Mack, friend of the show. Jamie had tweeted, I really hope their first show back in front of an actual audience is as rowdy as fuck, and I completely agree. I think, though, more realistically, it will be back to business as usual. I would love to think that crowds would be hotter, that WWE will produce better shows when they come back in front of an audience. They don't take it for granted. I don't think that's going to happen. I try to be as positive as I can be, but I also try to be realistic. I think when we get things back to normal, it's going to be the same thing we see every week. But granted, Raw was actually pretty good before this whole thing occurred. To be fair, SmackDown still sucked. So I don't think SmackDown's going to receive this shot in the arm of adrenaline and go back to being this great show from 2 or 3 years ago. I do not see that happening. I see them picking up where they left off and the crowds being the same. Maybe for the first show or two, they'd be like, oh, this is awesome, we're happy to be back, and that's it. People automatically take things for granted. That's just human nature. So I would love to think that, yes, they're going to produce better shows, but I mean, even AEW, they were already doing great work before the pandemic, so it's not like, oh, they're doing bad, they're doing terrible, and they're going to, this is going to motivate them to be better. They were already doing great shows. Fuck, I mean, they put on a great show last week in front of absolutely nobody. One of my favorite episodes of Dynamite to date. So I don't really think much is going to change. If anything, this whole thing is going to be way worse off. Again, I would love to think that shows will be better when this whole thing is over. But let's face the facts here. This is hurting a lot of wrestlers and a lot of the business. A lot of indie wrestling specifically that may not be able to bounce back from not running shows for a few months. Let's look at it that way. WrestleMania weekend is typically the biggest, most financial, profitable weekend of the year for a lot of wrestlers and a lot of companies. They're not getting that money this year. Can they bounce back? Can they continue to do shows? I would love to think so, depending on how long this thing lasts. But we don't know how long it's going to last, is the question. We still don't really have many more answers than we did a week or two ago, which sucks, and it's a little scary. But that's, such is life. We can't sit here and worry about that. We just kind of have to continue to move along with our lives to the best of our ability. That's just purely my opinion on the thing. But again, as far as WWE and AEW, they'll be fine. They'll go back to doing their shows, filling out arenas, as much as they can anyway. I don't think it's going to lead to a boom period in wrestling. I don't think this thing is better. I don't think anyone is really benefiting from this whole pandemic as far as wrestling, companies and stuff are concerned, because a lot of people aren't, getting that WrestleMania paycheck. That WrestleMania weekend is completely gone. They're not postponing it. So a lot of companies will be worse off, and it's going to take a long time to bounce back, but hopefully they can in due time, and a lot of these companies don't have to close. But anyway, next question from at RJ_Marceau. Mr. Marceau's question was, with Blood and Guts being delayed, how do you expect AEW to continue the feud? Well, first of all, I like the idea of pushing the match back until a later time. They never said when. I mean, that could be a month from now. It could be in 3 months from now. We have no idea how long this thing is going to last. But in my opinion, I like that because the whole Blood and Guts concept, the War Games match, should happen in front of an actual audience. To do it in front of an empty arena, to me, it renders it completely pointless. I mean, I'm sure they would make the most of it and have a great match. But in this case, I just don't think it's a great idea to be doing that. So I like the fact that they delayed it indefinitely. How do they continue the feud? I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that, because in my opinion anyway, they rushed into this thing. I know the Inner Circle and the Elite have been feuding for a while, dating back to Dynamite's debut in October. But honestly, coming out of Revolution, when they announced the match and they said, oh, it's happening in 3 weeks on Dynamite, that seemed very random to me. It felt very forced, very contrived, like the match kind of came out of nowhere. Moxley's not a part of it, and he's supposed to be feuding with Jericho in the Inner Circle. And again, I like Hardy being a part of it, but it's very random, or at least it was. I think giving it more time, this might actually be a benefit for the match. I think giving it more time to kind of be built up, establish the feud, do more matches between the Elite and Inner Circle. I know we had a 6-man tag team match last week, but maybe you can do an interim Jericho versus Broken Matt Hardy feud. I know they're going face-to-face on Wednesday's show. They can establish Matt Hardy as a viable player as part of the Elite in the meantime before they do the match. It would be nice if we had the match tonight. We're not. But at the same time, though, I don't think this is an overall negative, because it's not for example, Edge and Orton or Drew and Brock, which they've been building up since the Rumble. The Inner Circle and the Elite, yeah, they've had issues on and off since October. But they really haven't had a consistent feud for many, many, many months. So I like the fact, honestly, that they're delaying it until they get back in front of an actual audience. And again, like I said with WrestleMania, maybe that's their first show back. Because I don't know how this whole mandate, that's Orange County, that's where the PC is. They're taping out of Jacksonville. They may soon suffer the same fate where they can't tape shows past a certain date. They're still going off the assumption that they're taping shows every Wednesday live. I don't think that's going to last very long. I think that's going to be stopped a lot like the PC shows very, very soon. So with that being said, they're going to have to cancel all their upcoming shows. I have no idea what they do in the interim. The same thing with WWE. But unlike WWE, they can come back with a big show. They can come back with Blood and Guts. They can promote that as their first show back in front of whatever arena they're in that night, whether it be in April, May, June, who knows. A Blood and Guts first match back, I think that'd be great. And then in the meantime, maybe you can air video packages or old matches. I have no idea. They don't really have the same catalog that WWE does to pull from for like network stuff and whatever. So we'll see. But for right now, though, I'm not really against the idea of them delaying the match because they can continue to build up the feud in the interim and make it mean more in the process. His second question, I like this question a lot. What are your 3 favorite WrestleMania matches since WrestleMania 30? That's only going back 5 or 6 years. And I said this to Randy Cruz yesterday. I don't think there's been one classic Mania match since Taker and Shawn at 26 10 years ago. The only one or two I would say that come close are the Triple Threat from 30, which it's an amazing match, but I feel it's a tad overrated just because the first half of it is completely dead. The crowd is still in shock from the streak being broken. It wasn't predictable or anything like that. I thought it was a very well-worked match. But that first half was kind of just boring because people were still reeling from the streak being broken. So context is everything. I still think it's a great main event, one of the best main events in Mania history. And that same can be said for 31 with Roman and Brock Lesnar. And then Seth got involved. One of the best, if not the best finish in Mania history. The match itself was also tremendous. It was very well worked. The crowd was into it. They were hanging on every move. I fucking love that match. So I would probably say, since 30, if we're not including 30, we'll go off of that real quick. Roman and Brock in the main event of 31. I thought that main event was awesome. That same I love that show on the whole. I think 31 is one of the best Manias they've ever done. I think 30 and 31 might be the best back-to-back Manias they've ever done. 30 had its issues. I wasn't a fan of Cena and Wyatt, nor the outcome. Taker and Brock sucked. The Divas match wasn't that good. The main event started off slow, picked up the pace down the stretch. So I like 30 a lot, but I don't think it's the greatest Mania of all time. I feel people kind of overrate it. But that first hour and a half was amazing. The opener with Hogan and Rock and Stone Cold was incredible. The Battle Royal was great. The Shield Squash was exactly what it needed to be. Kind of went downhill with the Cena-Wyatt match, but it is what it is. So, anyway, I like 30, but I think 31 is a much better show overall. Like, every match delivered. I didn't like Cena beating Rusev, but the match was what it was. Rollins and Orton, I will say, is another favorite match of mine in the last 5-6 years since Mania 30. I freaking love that match. I think they had great chemistry. It was exactly what it needed to be and more. The finish was phenomenal. One of the greatest RKO I've ever seen. Sorry, Evan Bourne. That is the greatest RKO I've ever seen. I love that match. I love the finish. So I would say my top 3 favorite matches since WrestleMania 30, if not the main event of 30 included, if we're not including that, then Rollins and Orton, Roman and Brock, and then nothing from 32. I liked Styles and Jericho. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was like my favorite match like in the last 3 or 4 years, but it was a good match. A very good match, actually. 33 didn't really have that, except, the ladder match was good. I love the Hardy Boys being back. That will forever be the greatest moment I've ever witnessed live, ever will witness live. That return was unbelievable. The match was very fun. I wouldn't call the match one of my favorites, in the last 6 years, but it was a fun match. It was more so about the moment of the Hardy Boys being back and the fact that they won. Any other match in that show? I like Styles and Shane a lot. I thought that match was very good. A lot of people would say that it wasn't, I wouldn't go back and watch it. I would, but I don't know. It wasn't one of my favorite matches. 34, again, there was a lot of great matches. I wouldn't say this was my favorite match. 34 was kind of a weird show for me. Styles and Nakamura it was kind of disappointing, let's face it. It was flat out disappointing. The triple threat IC title match I thought was amazing. Charlotte and Asuka I thought was great. Not my favorite Mania, but it was all right. And then 35 I was there for, great show. Maybe Bryan and Kofi. I liked the match a lot. I thought it was an amazing match, one of the best matches all year. The moment of Kofi winning was crazy. So probably, if we're not including 30, then I would say maybe Bryan and Kofi. I'm trying to think of there wasn't one standout match in that entire show. That's the part that I don't like about 35. It was a consistent show. It was a very good show, I would say. But it didn't have one amazing match outside of Bryan and Kofi. All the other matches, I would say, were pretty good, but not great. Even AJ and Orton, I thought, would be a lot better than it was. So anyway, if we're not including 30, then Bryan, Kofi, Brock and Lesnar, Roman and Brock from 31, obviously, and then Seth and Orton from 31. If we are including 30, then the main event of WrestleMania 30 would probably beat out Bryan and Kofi. It's tough to say. I would really have to go back and watch them both. I mean, Bryan and Kofi just happened last year. That triple threat's been in the books for years now, so I would probably say that, but Bryan and Kofi was amazing as well. At Iwagu91, their first question was from Twitter. I read that The Undertaker might undergo change now that AJ Styles has been referring to him by his real name and bringing up his marriage to Michelle McCool. Do you think that's true? I don't think we're going to see the Phenom Taker at WrestleMania. I know they're having a Boneyard match, whatever the hell that means. I don't know if that's a Buried Alive match or whatever that means. Boneyard just sounds stupid. A Graveyard match I think would sound cooler, and even that sounds silly, but Boneyard just sounds stupid. That sounds like what they would call the match between Taker and Roman Reigns. Oh, the Bones, because I'm the big dog. Like, that's what I'm thinking of when I hear that. Anyway, I don't think we're getting Phenom Taker Mania, but I don't think we're getting American Badass either. I think we're getting that weird hybrid that we saw in Raw a week and a half ago, when he came out for the contract signing, and we still kind of had the Taker clothes on, but he didn't do the slow entrance and whatever. He just kind of bolted out there as fast as I've ever seen him run, at least in the last 10 years. And, I hate when he has the whole Phenom on makeup on. He looks fucking terrible. I saw the guy in person at the big event a couple weeks ago. He looked great. He looked awesome. When he looks normal, he looks great. I think he would look a lot better as an American Badass at this stage of his career than he would the Dead Man. But I do think we're going to get a weird hybrid where he has, the pants on, the long pants, and, but not the singlet, you'll have no shirt on, and you'll have the pants, but you'll still have, the makeup on, and no hat and whatever, no bandana. It won't be American Badass. I think those days have come and gone. His second question: who do you think should become the first non-WWE competitor to win the AEW World Championship? That's a great question. I think I've said this before, but two people come to mind. MJF, who, I love MJF. I don't think he's world title worthy yet, just because, that Cody match really was, it was a good match. It was not as good as I think it could have been. He really hasn't had one standout match yet in AEW. The guy is very good as a character, and I would love to see him as champion at some point. I just don't think that time is anytime soon. Darby Allin, to me, I think is a more complete package. The guy is crazy over. He's over like Rover. He can go in the ring. He's had a lot of good matches. That Jericho match was awesome. The Moxley match was awesome. The Sammy Guevara match, or Revolution, was also awesome. A lot of A's there. But I think Allin is great. I think he's awesome. He comes to mind as a person who could be the AEW World Champion at some point. Him and Moxley have amazing chemistry. They had that match on Dynamite. They had that match at the Northeast Wrestling Show I was at. Moxley's first indie match back from WWE was against Allin at Northeast Wrestling. Alexis and I were there. It was such a great match. So Allin beating Moxley would be pretty cool down the road. Obviously not anytime soon. That's about it that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of other people, non-WWE. Cody is a former WWE guy. Jake Hager, not that I want him as world champion anyway. Pentagon, the Lucha Bros aren't exactly there yet as singles guys. I'm trying to think of other, maybe Adam Page. Adam Page would make sense. I think Adam Page maybe even more so than Allin, especially at the rate that he's getting over at. Adam Page, that is. So, yeah, probably Hangman, I would say. But if not Hangman, then Allin, and then if not either of those two, then MJF. His third question: do you think that Sonya Deville will be revealed as the one who has been sabotaging Otis's attempts to hook up with Mandy Rose? Absolutely. I think that's pretty obvious where this is going. And I have no issue with the predictability because it makes complete sense. It's a typical, like, love type story situation. So I think Sonya being revealed as the one who sabotaged the date and Ziggler just kind of swooped in makes absolute perfect sense. So, yes, I think that's where this is going. I don't know if they do the payoff before Mania, at Mania, after Mania. With the whole taping schedule, we have no idea. That match may have been thrown out the window. It looks like they're still building to it, because they did the whole thing with Otis and Ziggler this week on SmackDown, so it's not like they've completely nixed it because of the whole PC shit. Same thing with the light thing, the light on the arm, the mysterious static that's been appearing on SmackDown. They didn't show that on 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, but they did last week on SmackDown, so it's not like they nixed that either. But I do think Sonya will be revealed as the one who has been sabotaging Otis's attempts to get with Mandy this entire time. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the YouTube Machine. Check out Real Honesty with John Ritland. Great stuff as always on his channel. His first question was, do you think that independent wrestling can survive this temporary postponement/cancellation of shows? Or will we see a massive reduction in indie promotions for the foreseeable future? Well, that's what I got done talking about a little while ago, and I kind of was inspired to go on that rant kind of based off your question because I remember reading it last night. But I absolutely agree. I don't think indie wrestling will be dead. I mean, if this lasts a year and there's no shows for a year, then, not that it would be dead, but it would be severely damaged. If this only goes on for another month or two, again, fingers crossed, that might sound fucking delusional, but, then I think it will survive. It's going to take a while to bounce back and to get people paid and whatever. I think fans will still be there. It's not like when WCW closed. Like when they closed WCW, those fans, they didn't migrate over to WWE. No, they just went away. I don't think the fans now, I don't think they're going to stop watching wrestling because of this whole thing. They're going to stop going to indie shows. No, I think that audience is still going to be there. It's more a matter of getting the promoters and the promotions and the wrestlers back on their feet. So it's a big blow. It's a major blow, especially without WrestleMania weekend that a lot of these promotions and wrestlers bank on. And because it's not happening, that's a major blow. So I don't think it's going to kill indie wrestling. It's a big blow that I think they can bounce back from. It won't be immediate, but over time I think they can. His second question, is it possible that WWE and AEW will have to go on a hiatus of sorts in early April? Seems like this whole empty arena concept can only work for a few weeks before a shutdown is inevitable. Again, I just got done talking about this as well, but you were absolutely right, John. Like I just said, it seems like, I don't know if you sent this in before we found out or after we found out, but reportedly there's a mandate in Orange County, Florida, that it's a stay-at-home policy. It's an essential lockdown is what it is. And if that's the case, then they can't tape shows at the PC. That's just not going to happen. I don't think that's essential. They don't have to do the shows. So I think after they tape Mania, I think they're done. I don't know how that's going to affect AEW, but like I said earlier, I do fear that they will soon suffer the same fate and not be able to tape shows at Daly's Place. Fans or no fans, I think they're getting shut down. We all kind of figured that a week ago. I figured the same would happen with AEW as well. So, yeah, it's not even a matter of the empty arena shows will get old, they just shut down. Yeah, they are getting old, but, they're making the most of it. I actually enjoyed Raw for the most part on Monday, considering the circumstances. Dynamite, I thought, had an amazing show on Wednesday, and that was one of the best shows they've ever done in front of no fans last week. So, anyway, it's not like they're shutting down because, not that you're arguing this, but it's not like they're shutting down because, the shows are getting old. It would be better if we just shut down completely. No, they're being told to. And it seems like as you said, John, that is only inevitable. So, yes, I do fear that's going to happen. For how long, we have no idea. But March is almost over. April is right around the corner. I do think for at least a week or two, they're not going to be able to run shows. At least until early April at the absolute earliest. But it might be a lot longer than that. Again, we're still in a state of flux at the moment. We still have no idea what's going on. So it sucks, but I do feel like that is only inevitable as well. His next question, what do you think Brodie Lee's future in AEW will be? Do you think he can save the Dark Order gimmick? Again, this is just me. I know you don't agree with me, John. A lot of people don't agree with me, and that's fine. The Dark Order has grown on me. Their matches were always solid. The issue for me was the characters. We had no idea what they were about, who they were, why should I care? But they've been devoting so much promo and vignettes, promo time and vignettes to these guys in the group, that they've actually really grown on me. The whole Dark Order thing, do you think you're a loser? Come join us. Again, the two losers they recruited a while ago aren't going to make a lick of a difference. I forgot even what their names are, but I think it's cool. It's a cool idea. It's better than having them go out there and lose for no reason. They're losing a lot. They want to recruit losers and whatever. I like the gimmick a lot, so Not that they're my favorite act in the entire company, not by a long shot, but I think they've really done a 180 from where they were even 6 months ago. So they don't really bore me as much as they once did. Brodie Lee being the Exalted One, I didn't love. I would have rather seen him as the client for Jake Roberts, but I think he can make it work. We've already seen Brodie Lee in a faction before, rather, albeit as a follower, not as a leader, but I think he can make it work. I thought what we saw from him on Wednesday was good. How long that will last remains to be seen. And as RJ brought up to me, which I completely agree with, and people should definitely keep this in mind, just because he's in AEW doesn't automatically mean, he's going to be the next world champion. Look at it this way. And not that this guy is going to be a world champion anyway, but Shawn Spears. I actually really like Shawn Spears. I think he's very good. I've always been a big Ty Dillinger, Shawn Spears fan. He's not been my favorite wrestler, but in terms of seeing his potential, I was calling him underrated 5 years ago, even well before he was doing the 10 gimmick. The guy is good. They brought him in. He had that very brief push as a heel when he turned heel, attacked Cody. They had that match, a very good match. And then that was it. He lost, and he's been losing every week since then on Dark with this whole tag team thing. I think it's a nice little gimmick, but he's lost a lot. And it's not even like he was losing. It's not even like he was winning a lot when he was on his own either. After that Cody match, the guy did absolutely nothing. So let's not fantasize that Lee automatically, just because he's in AEW, is going to be pushed to the moon. That's not the case at all. First of all, they already have a lot of talent that they're not doing a lot with, which, is inevitable for a lot of promotions. It's not like Lee will be any exception. So I guess we'll soon see. But, don't get your hopes up. I am optimistic that Lee will be better utilized in WWE, or rather, I'm sorry, in AEW than he was in WWE. In WWE, they just didn't even put him on TV. They just took him off TV completely after Mania last year, and even before that, he was hurt. It was a whole lot of issues. So, anyway, it sucked, but I do think he will be better utilized in AEW. But again, is Shawn Spears any better off now in AEW than he was in WWE? Maybe slightly, because he was off TV for so long in, late 2018 or so, before he got, his release in early 2019. So I guess we'll find out, but anyway, I'm just not a big fan of the whole, tag team thing, blah, 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 just because I think it's a dead-end gimmick, and maybe he'll find a good partner and whatever, but, he's been losing on Dark. How much different is that than losing on Main Event to fucking Titus O'Neil? You know what I'm saying? So hopefully Lee has a better future in AEW than Spears does, and Spears they can always turn around. But for now, though, it's not like he's lighting the world on fire, so hopefully Lee will be better off. And his last question here, non-wrestling related, but have you used any of this stay-at-home time to catch up on any movies on Netflix or other streaming services? If so, which ones have you enjoyed? I'm home most of the time anyway, so honestly, this doesn't really affect me too much. I'm more of a homebody regardless. I'm not much of a big going out guy, whatever. I didn't do that in middle school, high school, college, now. The only places I really go out to are with Alexis. That's about it. We go to a lot of wrestling shows, but that's honestly the extent of our extracurricular activities in terms of going out, partying. But we don't really do much of that stuff. I enjoy it once in a while, but not every day or every weekend, whatever. I just like staying at home. So anyway, to answer your question, though, usually the issue is that I watch a lot of the movies on Netflix or something that interests me with Alexis. And unfortunately, I haven't really been able to see a lot of her in the last week or so because of the whole quarantine thing. And people I know have been not feeling well. We don't know if they have the COVID-19, but that's a whole other story. So I'm trying to keep my distance. The whole 6 feet away thing is very real. You don't want to get other people sick, and I don't want to get her sick or her family, whatever. So without her, I'm not really watching many movies. Not that we watched a ton to begin with, but we watched A Simple Favor, which came out about a year or two ago. I actually liked the movie. I thought it was an entertaining movie. We watched that about a week or two ago. We caught up on Dark Side of the Ring. We've been watching those for the last few weeks, and fucking loved it. She loves that show. So we watched the Benoit one together last night. We watched part 1 already, and I know John actually already reviewed it, so check out his review, both part 1 and part 2. But, yeah, we watched part 2 together last night. It was so good. It was so good. So I checked that out. Really not much else. I mean, I've watched a lot of wrestling-related stuff. I've watched some old Raws. The Benoit Raw, the Raw where Lesnar debuted. I want to watch the Eddie Guerrero Memorial one yet, soon. I want to watch that. I haven't watched that one yet. I want to soon. I watched the Jericho Cruise from 2018 that had all the matches on it. I reviewed that. I'm going to watch and review the NWA 70th anniversary show at some point. watch and review that. That looked like a good show. I've actually gotten through like an hour of that, so that's mostly what I'm watching right now. Really not movies, but more so wrestling I either haven't seen in a while, but definitely stuff I haven't seen, period, and I like to watch and review it. It kind of feels, it's a productive use of time, I would say. At noob_n_code 1991, with 13 matches added to the WrestleMania 36 card, which match will take the 16th match spot? I would say Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. It's my favorite storyline so far this year, since the women's tag team title match has zero interest and no payoff. I don't have the card in front of me. Have they even confirmed 13 matches? I don't feel like they have. Maybe they have, and I'm not aware, but I mean, I think they're going to get both matches on there. I think Otis and Ziggler will play a part on the card in some form or fashion, and I think the women's tag team titles are being defended too. There's no way they're doing Asuka and Alexa Bliss on SmackDown this Friday and not doing the tag title match at WrestleMania. Do I care? Absolutely not. I really don't give a shit. I like the Kabuki Warriors. I like Bliss and Cross. We've seen the match multiple times before. Those championships mean absolutely nothing. I just don't give a shit about it. But I do see the match happening at Mania, and I see Otis and Ziggler either one-on-one or some sort of a tag team match happening at Mania as well. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, his first question was, thoughts on it looking like we might actually get the stable of Daniel Bryan, Drew Gulak, and Chad Gable? I feel like you've asked me this before. I don't know if it was recently or a month ago. I don't know. I think it was, you said, oh, what about a catch point like stable with these three guys? I don't know if I pooped on it at that point or if I liked the idea. But I'm going to say now, if I pooped on it, I apologize, because I think that's a great idea. After seeing how well Gulak and Bryan work together, I think I made the argument that Bryan doesn't really need Gulak or Gable or whatever. Gable we've already seen in a million tag teams and stables, with Benjamin, with Bobby Roode, with Jason Jordan, with a lot of different people. And this would be no different. I think he was teaming with Ali for a cup of coffee, late last year. This is nothing new, but it's better than having him go out there and be called Shorty G and all this other dumb shit. So, I feel like, I don't know if we'd actually get Gable's inclusion. Bryan threw that out there on Twitter. I love that idea a lot. And not that they would play off of this, but Bryan was pretending that he was his dad when Jason Jordan's dad was Kurt Angle a few years ago, which was fucking funny. If you've never seen it, he put out a tout, quote-unquote. It was actually on, his Twitter page or something, where he pretended to be Chad Gable's dad, and Gable had none of it. It was amazing. But, I love the idea of a Bryan, Gulak, and Gable stable, like a catch point-like stable. Again, I may have pooped on it originally, and if I did, I sincerely apologize, because now looking back on it, I really like that idea. I think it's a great use of everyone involved right now. And you can also combat, Nakamura, Cesaro, and Zayn versus Bryan, Gulak, and Gable. Hey, right there, money match right there. I think that's awesome. His second question, do you agree out of the former WWE stars that the only two WWE really dropped the ball on were Pac and Brodie Lee? I don't know if you're talking about AEW. I assume you are. Well, Sean Spears, I felt like they dropped the ball on big time. Like, they could have done a lot more with him. Again, not that he was going to be a world champion. But I do think he could have been a solid mid-card guy. Had they kept the 10-count gimmick going and all that other stuff in 2017, they didn't. They dropped the ball on him. Moxley, the heel turn sucked. I mean, he should have turned heel, but the heel run was terribly booked. They didn't drop the ball on him, though. Could he have been a bigger star? Sure. But the guy, was a multi-time US, IC, Tag Team, and WWE champion. So to say, they dropped the ball on Ambrose is kind of a joke. Yeah, they could have utilized him better, but Lee and Pac were more so, definitely. And even Pac was very successful. NXT was a star. Main roster accomplished nothing, but he was in the Cruiserweight division, won the title twice. He was a great Cruiserweight champion. They definitely dropped the ball on not doing more with him outside of the Cruiserweight division. Brodie Lee, they could have done a lot more with last year on his own, and then, 2017 when he was on the cusp of maybe not winning, but contending for the WWE title at WrestleMania. I would have rather seen that than Orton and Wyatt one-on-one. Who gives a shit? But anyway, out of the former guys in WWE, Cody they dropped the ball on too. Again, former IC champion, but he was hot there for a while. You can't argue with me on that. He was hot there for a while in 2013 on his own. 2014, they turned him into fucking Stardust. What a waste. So, no, they're not the only two former WWE stars in AEW. You didn't even say AEW. I'm just kind of making that inference there. They're not the only two former WWE guys that WWE dropped the ball with in AEW. I definitely think there's more to it than that. Dustin Rhodes, the guy's 50. Did they drop the ball on him? Not really. The guy was very successful. He accomplished exactly what he should have. So I'm not really saying Dustin Rhodes. I won't go that far. But definitely Cody. Definitely, who did I say? Sean Spears. Those two, and then Brodie, Lee, and Pac, as you mentioned as well. At Scarlet One, we'll finish off with their 3 questions here. First off, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars 22 and 23. So they're starting with 2 weeks ago, because I didn't do an episode for last week talking about the prior week's episodes of NXT and Dynamite. For 2 weeks ago, I mean, that seems like a completely different world at this point. But 2 weeks ago, I liked both shows. Dynamite, I don't really remember all too well, because that was when everything went to shit. I mean, that was when the news broke about the shows being taped and, the NBA being canceled and the coronavirus spreading like wildfire. That was bad. So I don't really remember much about the show, but both shows the last couple weeks have been good. NXT a few weeks ago, they had that good Keith Lee, Cameron Grimes match, the Broserweights and Undisputed Era match. That was good. I feel like I've already talked about this, but the Gargano and Ciampa brawl I thought was very good. Last week, NXT didn't even really have an original show. They just had that recap interview style show, which I thought was entertaining. I thought Dynamite was obviously the more must-see show of the two, but NXT also had a pretty good show, all things considered, given the circumstances. The debuts of Brodie Lee and Matt Hardy were awesome. The only match in the show I didn't really think, connected, wasn't really all that good, was the Jurassic Express versus Butcher and Blade match. I thought they tried. I liked Jurassic Express, but they had a lot of botches, and it kind of felt sloppy, and it wasn't that good of a match. That was the only thing in the last couple weeks I can really remember as being not that good. 2 weeks ago for Dynamite, it was a solid show, nothing too great, nothing too bad either. That's all I can remember. Scarlett's second question here. Did you hear about Braun Strowman's comments regarding crowdfunding and insinuating people like indie wrestlers struggling to find work should change professions? Yes, I've heard about this. I can't really say more than anyone else already has, because I feel like I'm beating down a dead horse here. But yes, I agree with the masses. It was a dumb thing to say. That is incredibly stupid. Whether it's wrestlers, a fucking server at a restaurant, just change professions if you don't like it. It's not a matter of not... If they're sitting there complaining, I hate my job. Like, again, I get it. I've been there. Like, I mean, with various things, and not just myself, but with other people. Like, people are sitting there complaining, I hate my job. Some people, first of all, have no choice. They don't really have much of a choice. They're like, quit this and go do something else, blah, blah, blah. And then they're out of a job. Sometimes people just do jobs to make ends meet, and if they have to hate their job, that then so be it. If they had the choice, then I would say, yeah, then go out and do something else. This isn't a matter of that, though. It's not a matter of that at all. A lot of these people love their jobs, whether it be wrestling, working at restaurants, blah, blah, blah. And these people didn't have a choice but to stop working. So to say change professions is so fucking, on my high horse type of comment. Being in WWE, getting paid millions to do... be booked to look like a loser. And I like Braun a lot. I do like Braun. We met him a couple weeks ago. Very nice guy. But that was an insanely stupid thing for him to say. I couldn't even imagine that he said that in public. Like, the guy really puts his foot in his mouth a lot more than he should. What a dumb thing to say. If you feel that way, that's one thing. To say that out in public and make yourself look like an idiot is just mind-blowing to me. Last question from Scarlet One, and for the day. What do you know about the coronavirus itself? What a question to end on. And I'll kind of flip the table back on you. What do any of us really know about the coronavirus itself? I would argue not a lot. Because I feel like the facts are changing every day, depending on who you talk to. The news is telling two different stories. And I applaud the coverage, and again, there's a lot of coverage, and I get it. But, we hear these things about like, young people won't be affected, and then they are being infected, and they are being affected, and then we hear... it's going to peak soon. It's not going to peak soon. It'll be over in a month. It'll be over in 6 months. Things won't be open till early next year. We have no idea. We just going to have to hope this is over soon, and that's it. Just pray that it's over soon. I don't think it will be, but I don't even think we've hit the worst of it. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I've said this a million times. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but you just got to have to move on to the best of your ability. It's incredibly difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. But the virus itself, it almost doesn't even matter. Because we're in such a bad state right now with all these things closing, people losing their jobs, and it just getting worse, and it's spreading like wildfire. It's not the end of the world, first of all. But to say that we shouldn't be taking it seriously, it's only a couple deaths, like, a lot of people have already died. Worldwide, in Italy, it's a shit show over there. It sucks. U.S., we got a couple hundred deaths. I don't think we've hit 1,000 yet, but we're quickly approaching that territory. I guarantee you it'll be there soon. New York is a shit show right now in terms of the amount of people that have it there. It's really, really bad. Not enough ventilators. So again, you hear two different sides to the story. in regards to, oh, it's not that bad, it's like the flu, and then it's not like the flu, it's very serious, like this could kill you, this is going to kill millions. I don't think it's going to kill millions. I do think it's going to kill a lot of people, more than it should, because this thing is it sucks. It really, really sucks. So I don't think any of us really know anything about it, not even the highest paid professional in the medical industry knows anything. I mean, we can only assume, and there's a lot of doctors that have very smart opinions, but then there's other doctors who have other opinions that have dealt with it more, dealt with it less. We have no idea what to believe right now. We're still in a state of uncertainty. And I know Americans, myself included, I love to know what I'm doing tomorrow and what's going on, when things are reopening. We just don't have that right now. We don't have that luxury, and it fucking sucks. So we don't have any answers. We won't have any answers for a while, I would assume, in regards to, is it going to come back and infect some more people? Can you get it twice? I've heard no. I've heard yes. It sucks. It's awful, but we just got to make the best of it that we can. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But I will say, though, bottom line, I'm not going to end any politics. You guys know I never talk about politics. But the fact that we did not better prepare for this already is a fucking disgrace. It's disgusting. I mean, we knew this was coming. Trump, I mean, you can say about him what you will, and the whole relief bill and sending people money, I think that's awesome. And I think that was his idea. The Democrats may not be passing it, and I'm not really sure what to believe. I'm not really talking about that. But Trump was like, oh, only a couple people have it. We have it under control. That's it, blah, blah, blah. And now a lot of people in the country have it. Way more than we should. Because we should have better prepared for this. We should have had the ventilators by now a month ago. Not, doing it now. We should have more tests. We knew this was coming. It's a lot worse than the swine flu. And I said a couple weeks ago, oh, it's nothing more than, no different than that. Why were we not freaking out then? It's a lot different than that. I realize that now. I'm well aware of that. So anyway, just stay safe, wash your hands. That's really all that we can do. Don't go out if you don't have to. Stay inside. Stay safe, wash your hands, be clean. That's all I can really say. The only thing we really know for sure is that to stop spreading this thing, we need to stop fucking going out unless it's essential. Unless you're working or you need to go see someone absolutely or go to the hospital. That's about it. So it sucks because I want to have to leave too. I'm a homebody and I want to leave. But you can't right now. It sucks. So just stay safe. And we should have better prepared for this as a country. I'm not saying it's our fault, like me and you. But maybe the president probably should have seen this coming, or other people closer to the top, and we could have gotten the test a while ago, even if we had no cases a month ago. You had to know it was coming eventually. It wasn't isolated to China. It was already spreading to other countries even before it got bad here. So that's kind of concerning, but that's a different story and a different topic for a different day. That is going to wrap it up, though, for episode 330 of #AskGSM here today for March 25th, 2020. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show, checking out these videos. I very much appreciate it. And we should be back next week with an all-new episode. So if you want to send in questions, definitely do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself, and drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So if you're sitting home bored right now, I will advise this. There's a lot of stuff to watch on the network, and I'm going to take you through everything I think you should binge on the network during these trying times. If you're sitting at home, not a lot to do, you can't go out, you're used to going out, whatever, and you're looking for stuff to watch, specifically stuff on the WWE Network, I'm going to have you covered. Tomorrow, Wrestle Rant Radio, I'm planning on recording an episode where I run down my WWE Isolated Quarantine playlist of all the things from the network that I've been a loyal subscriber since practically day one. And it's especially now that it's free. There's a lot that's free on the network right now, so there's no better time than currently to sign up for the network. And I'm going to run through everything I think you should watch on the platform on that streaming service tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Tomorrow we should have those Wrestle Rant Radio excerpts up, and then on Friday, my review of WWE the day of on Elimination Chamber. Saturday, hopefully a SmackDown review, and then Sunday, I think my new Dark Side of the Ring review. Not of the Benoit episode. I have to finish reviewing Season 1 first. But yeah, we have content going up every day, so no need to worry about that. Anyway, guys, have a great one. Stay safe. Wash your hands, like I said earlier. And I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.